Hi, and welcome to In the Loop. My name is Shane Finster, and we are here this morning with Beau Evans from the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Thank you very much. Right.
So, for anyone unfamiliar with the program, what is it that you do?
Well, I deal with traffic safety, law enforcement initiatives, public safety awareness for anything related to the roadway.
Awesome. So, we're here today to talk about, I believe, impaired driving, enforcement, and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So, impaired driving, I would think of DUI, drunk driving. So, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, most of it is, folks think that it's about alcohol, impaired driving, but it's actually multifaceted. There are a couple things that come to mind when I think of impaired driving, but I'm in the field, of course. One of them is alcohol impaired. The other one is actually drug impaired driving, which is something that has been trending a lot higher around here lately. Actually, statistics are showing at least 40% of the DUI arrests are actually drug-related in the Huntington area and in the tri-state area.
So 40%, are there certain key indicators that help an officer know when they're basically, other than when there's a checkpoint set up formally, is there any particular way that an officer can detect or even someone else in a surrounding vehicle could be able to detect that, oh, we may have an issue with the driver that's in front of me or beside of me? What are some of the things they should look out for?
Some of the things are, of course, swerving, erratic lane change, also the fact that they may be driving too slow. They may be, slumped over the wheel, or they may be driving really slow or on the berm driving. They may have their flashers on. Not to say that everybody that has their flashers on is a drunk driver, but if there's erratic movement with the driver, that would be the case that they would probably suspect that they would be under the influence. Law enforcement officers, of course, have been trained in many different ways. More recently, to the West Virginia Highway Safety Program is the Drug Recognition Expert Program, or the DRE program. And that is sort of the cream of the crop for the police officers. That training, very hands-on, very extensive training that the officers have to go through. It's 3-week training to detect impaired drivers that are drug-related, not just alcohol. So with that training and other training such as ARIDE, which is Advanced Roadside Impairment and Enforcement, that is really, if law enforcement officers have that training, they can detect impaired drivers very easily on the roadway.
So is there a particular percentage of of officers that have received that training, or is it like an elective thing that they do?
It's an annual in-service training. Most officers, probably 90% of the officers in the area, have already received the training. Unless they are getting ready to go to the academy, they haven't received it yet. They'll receive it there. Or if they've just been retired and just now getting back onto the police force, they may need the training then. So about 90%, I would say, are trained in it.
Excellent. So in terms of just someone else on the roadway that's not a trained officer, we've talked about some of the things you note. In terms of other things related to awareness, in terms of your surroundings on the road and other drivers, are there certain things that another driver should do if they suspect they have someone in a surrounding vehicle that has an impairment issue?
Yes, the best thing to do would be to pull off to the side of the road and call 911. If you have a local non-emergency 911, you can call that number as well, and they can dispatch somebody. That way you're not tying up the emergency lines. But if you need to, you can call 911. I know in West Virginia, I do believe Ohio and Kentucky will have those, if not already. They have an app for your smartphone or your Android phone that's a Drive Sober app. And if you just get onto the Google Play Store or your iTunes Store, then you can download the app for free. And it has your state's law about DUI and impaired driving on there. It also has some other neat facts. Your taxi rides, call a taxi, adopt a ride there for people to, get a safe ride home from an event that they may have consumed alcohol. And it also has in the middle of the app, actually has a button where you can click on it and it will directly link you to your local state police highway patrol center to report a drunk driver.
Wow. So, and of course only use that if you can safely by pulling off the side of the road, right?
Right.
So in terms of if you see someone that you suspect is driving impaired, what would your recommendation be in terms of would you follow the person or try to get information off the vehicle prior to calling in or using the app? What would you suggest in terms of that to help the officers, once they're dispatched, locate the person?
Get a vehicle description of the vehicle, maybe the make, the model, the color, and to also get the license plate number and information. Wouldn't suggest following the vehicle or pursuing the vehicle in any manner. Let the law enforcement handle that. There's enough law enforcement spread throughout the region that the word will spread quickly to all the different detachments and departments, and the person will be apprehended.
Excellent. So is there any additional information you'd like to share in terms of looking in terms of either consuming and then making the right choice, or on the other hand, just general awareness for someone out on the highway? So kind of two things there. If you choose to imbibe, what would your recommendation be?
Well, to start with, the first question is, if you are going to consume, best thing to do is you have a designated driver. And if you do not have a designated driver, as I mentioned before, use that app to get a taxi ride. Call a taxi, call somebody that's in your family. Many times we've talked to family members. Family members would rather you call them, and yeah, they may be annoyed that you called them to come and pick you up, but it saves your life. And they would rather have you around than have something happen to you while you're out on the roadway.
Absolutely.
So, just be courteous to your fellow person too on the roadway. If you're going to drink and drive, there's no reason for you to have a driver's license. If you're going to do that, you're taking not only putting yourself at risk, but you're putting millions of other folks on the roadway at risk. And just because you may be 5 miles away from home, right around the corner, statistics show that most accidents happen right near your house.
Wow.
Where you live. So that's where the majority of your crashes will occur. So it's best to play it safe and to stay away from that. And if you are on the roadway and you see somebody that's drinking and driving, do the steps that we had mentioned before. Safely pull off to the side of the road. Either use the app to call 911 or call 911 and to report the drunk driver. Get as much description as you can off the vehicle without causing anybody else's life to be in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a passenger in the vehicle, let them take down the information while you're driving. So that way it's safe for everybody and everybody's good to go.
So I don't think we could have this conversation without speaking in terms of consequences. We know what the worst case consequences kind of would go without saying, in terms of losing life, either your own or an innocent bystander. But let's speak in terms of consequences for choosing to drink and drive or engage in using drug activity and then driving. What are some of the consequences when you get caught?
Okay, that's a good question. Depending on which state you live in, it's could be an automatic license revocation if you are caught drinking and driving or impaired driving with drugs in your body. That's an automatic license revocation. Jail time is certainly will be spent. Fines, hefty fines. Approximately, the average DUI costs about $10,000.
Oh, wow.
That's your legal fees and everything incorporated into that. So if you have an extra $10,000 laying around to blow, then you're okay. But
Right. Probably
but
generally not worth it. for
Probably
most
not
folks.
worth it because it's a major cost. But like you said, it could cost you your life, and if you happen to be the drunk driver and you kill somebody, it'll cost them their life plus yours, because you'll be in jail for life. So possibly in jail for life. So that, right there should be a big enough incentive not to do it.
Absolutely.
Just because it may be convenient, you think you can drive home safely. It's your judgment is impaired. That's what alcohol does to your judgment. It suppresses your motor skills and your thinking, and so that right there in itself causes your judgment to be lacking. Thus, you can end up causing a crash and possibly killing somebody. Luckily, law enforcement across the nation have done an excellent job in keeping the roadway safe. But there's a lot more work to be done, because there's a lot more people on the roadway than there are officers. And unfortunately, those few slip through the cracks, and you hear of crashes that have occurred.
Mm-hmm.
But for those crashes that have occurred, a lot more lives have been spared because of a law enforcement officer pulling somebody off the side of the road and arresting them for being under the influence.
Well, I know myself and I'm very grateful to those folks that are out there fighting for our safety every day. So, Beau, I appreciate your time this morning. And for In the Loop, I'm Shane Finster with Armstrong.